All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I see people are coming in. Um, Hi, I'm Joanna Ransdell. I'm one of the counselors with CAPS, and I'm really excited that you could join me today for this group on improving the moment. So, we're going to be talking a little bit about different ways to manage crisis situations, different ways to manage difficult life situations that come up for us unexpectedly, which who hasn't been there, right? So, to start, I just wanted to encourage you all to take a moment and give some thanks to yourself for taking this time for yourself, for coming in and doing this workshop. Um, when I know we all have other things that are keeping us busy and other options for spending our time. So I want to thank you for spending this time with me and for yourself to hopefully get some beneficial tools to help you manage this kind of crazy, weird time we're all living in. So now that people are here, I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation. Um, so I'm going to share my screen real quick. And here we go. Ooh, that's not the right spot. Alrighty, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Like I said, this is going to be about skills for improving the moment, skills for kind of creating almost like a crisis survival plan for yourself that can be used for any kind of unexpected, difficult moments that come up for you, or just difficult life situations that are unexpected, right? Again, I'm Joanna Ransdell. I'm a social worker working with CAPS here at UM-Dearborn. And one of the things I specialize in is working with individuals who want just a little bit of help managing their emotions better, managing crisis and stress a little bit better. So that's really what the topic is today. How do we manage stress in a way that doesn't add to the stress? So before we even kind of get started, how do we go back? Sorry, technical difficulties here. Before we get started with today's group, I wanted to take a moment for a little bit of mindfulness practice. I like to start my groups with mindfulness because I think it puts us in a good frame of mind to take in new information. And it's also just a really good calming technique to manage your anxiety, manage any difficult emotions. Mindfulness is a really powerful tool that all of us can benefit from. Just 5 minutes a day, even, can make a notable difference and improvement in things like sleep and things like your physical health and your emotional health. So I encourage you to really investigate mindfulness, especially if you feel like you have a little more time, maybe taking just 5 minutes a day. Today we're going to do a paced breathing technique. So it's going to involve counting our breath and to kind of a specific rhythm. So the 4-7-8 breathing technique is a technique that has been studied and shown scientifically to reduce anxiety. So I'm going to ask you to give this a try with me. Of course, listen to your body. If holding your breath for long periods of time doesn't work for you, or if this feels in any way uncomfortable or not fun, please don't force yourself to do it. You can make it your own. You can kind of just take a moment to observe your breath or even just skip the holding your breath part. But what we're going to do, we're going to breathe in for the count of 4, hold the breath for the count of 7, and then exhale for a count of 8. So I'll show you one cycle. It's going to be breathing in and then hold. And then out. All right, so we're just going to do this for just 3 minutes. So let's all take a moment to get our feet on the floor, get ourselves nice and rooted in the earth, sitting up with a straight back, but not stick straight, just kind of upright and awake. You can close your eyes if that feels nice for you, or simply just lower your gaze, soften your gaze, take a moment and settle in. Notice the breath where it is now without trying to change it. And go ahead and start breathing in for the count of 4 at your own pace, and then holding for 7 and out for 8. And our 3 minutes is going to start now. And if any thoughts are coming up, any emotions, any distractions, I encourage you to not beat yourself up in any way, not judge yourself. Just doing your best to stay with the breath, in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. And if you get off track, that's okay. Just come back to it. Just gently bring yourself back. Last 30 seconds here. And you can return to your normal breathing. Bring yourself back to awareness in the present moment. Thank you guys for participating in that with me. I hope that it maybe brought up some calm for you, some clarity. I invite you to just kind of notice how you're feeling now. Is there a difference in your sense of attention or awareness? Is there a difference in kind of the emotional place or relaxation that you feel? If not, that's okay. If so, great. But if you struggled with that exercise, you're not alone. Meditation and mindfulness practice are, really difficult, especially when you're starting out. So really be gentle and kind with yourself if that was hard for you. But thank you for giving that one a try with me. So let's get into today's topic, which is improving the moment. This skill is really for those moments that come up that invite us to kind of surrender to, right? There are so many things in life that we cannot control, and things that come up for us that are just surprising and unpleasant and painful, right? No matter who you are, no matter how fortunate you are in your life, we all experience pain, we all experience difficult moments. So for those difficult, unexpected moments, I really like to remember the serenity prayer, which is on the screen right now. So I'll just read it for you. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Obviously, there's many things in life we can't change. Right now, we can't change the fact that we are in a global pandemic and that we are experiencing a huge sense of uncertainty and grief and loss and fear. It's just super, super profound in a way that I personally know I haven't experienced, and I'm sure many of you haven't experienced in your life before. We can't change that reality. But what we can change is how we respond, how we take care of ourselves, how we treat ourselves in times of difficulty. We can change how we get support, who we get support from. We can change how we cope, right? These are the things that are in our control, right? So we have to have the wisdom to know the difference. What are things I can change? What are things I can't? For those things that you can't change, sometimes we need to practice surrender and letting go and put our focus back on what is within our control. So that's what I'm hoping this group will do, will allow us to kind of see what is in our control. How do we manage this crisis that we're all in together? So we're going to be talking about improving the moment in the time of COVID-19, right? So again, we're exploring coping skills for unforeseen challenges that we cannot change. Definitely applies to the situation with the global pandemic. And I want to talk about how these skills, how these different skills we're going to be talking about can help us. They're not going to solve all of our life's problems. They're not going to change difficult situations, right? Sometimes we need to accept that difficult situations arise, and that's okay, right? Because that's part of life. But what can we do to improve even the difficult moments we're in? We can improve the moment by regulating our body and our brain chemistry. Our nervous systems sometimes respond in ways that they may be trying to help us, but are making situations worse. For instance, those of you who have maybe experienced a panic attack or just an intense moment of high anxiety know that our bodies and our brains can really just trigger us into kind of overload, right? And it's okay for us to feel anxiety right now, but there are things we can do for ourselves to kind of tamper that down when it gets to a level that's unmanageable. So hopefully some of these skills will help you with that piece of it, really leaning in and healing yourself in terms of your physical response to a crisis. Changing how we perceive pain and struggle, right? Pain and struggle, they're a part of life. So how do we start to maybe even welcome those experiences? How do we start to kind of change the ways in which we think about pain? Maybe there's some things we get from negative experiences. Maybe there's positives within them that we can also turn our attention to, and that can also change how we are responding to a crisis. Another really important aspect is changing how we perceive ourselves, right? If you view yourself as incapable, if you view yourself as insufficient for managing stress, you might have this feeling of like, I can't handle this, I'm not going to be able to get through this, versus this sucks, this is awful, this is not what I want, and I know that I have support, I know I have tools, and I know I have inner reserves that are going to help me right now. So changing how you see yourself and shifting the ways in which you're even just talking to yourself in your mind is really important. And of course, working towards acceptance and letting go might be the hardest part of this, right? But sometimes we have to radically accept the difficult moments in our life, right? And maybe you guys can even think of times in your life where you've had this to be true for yourself, where you found that accepting even difficult things that have happened to you has allowed for healing to take place and for you to even just change the way that you're dealing with a specific difficult situation. So as we're going through this, feel free to share in the Q&A if you want any reactions, any experiences this is bringing up for you. I'd love to hear any of your thoughts. I also want to encourage you all to grab a pen and a paper or just something to write with as we're going through, because I'm going to be asking you questions for reflection throughout this group. So as we get into the skills, I'm going to want you to kind of take an active role in applying these to yourself and figuring out how you can really practice this these skills for yourself. So I saw somebody raise their hand. This is my first experience dealing with raising hands. So let me see here. Okay. So yeah, if you have anything to add, please feel free to type it into the Q&A and send it over. I believe it just goes to me. So yeah, I encourage you share whatever you'd like. If you have any questions that go through this presentation, feel free to share those with me. Okay. So moving forward. So our skills are going to follow this acronym IMPROVE, a little bit easier to remember. And our first skill that we're going to be talking about is I for imagery. Sometimes it's really helpful to use imagery, imagination, and visualization as a coping skill. So to demonstrate this, I'd like you to think of a place in your experience or a place you've been to that was really, really peaceful. So take a moment and just cultivate that image. Oh, I do have a question really quick. Someone wanted to know if the breathing technique is helpful during a panic attack. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say it can definitely be helpful for that situation, because part of a panic attack is you're having really shallow breath. So when you invite kind of a deeper, more kind of regulated breathing, you can change how your body's autonomic nervous system is responding, and therefore it can help reduce the impact of a panic attack. Really good question. Thanks for asking. So with imagery, again, I'm going to invite you, think about a place that you've been to that was just super peaceful. Maybe you went to summer camp, maybe you're really into nature. Maybe that place for you is your own bedroom, maybe like a family vacation spot or memory you have. What's a time or a place that you've been to that brought peace, that brought calm, that brought feelings of joy to you? If you're struggling to think of a place in your own life, maybe thinking of just imagining a place in your own mind. What does a peaceful place look like to you? And now I'm going to ask you to take a moment to really reflect on this concept. So on your piece of paper, I want you to describe your version of a peaceful place. And really engaging the senses, like describe it in as much detail as you can in the next few moments. So this peaceful place, again, can be real, it can be some place you've been to, some place you haven't been to, or just a made up place in your mind. But on your piece of paper, write down what would you see if you were in this peaceful place. You can even close your eyes for a moment. Just look around at this peaceful place in your mind. What do you see? Also writing down any sounds, anything you can hear in your peaceful place. Maybe you hear birds singing, maybe you hear traffic, maybe it's really quiet. Maybe you just hear an air conditioner if you're indoors. What do you feel? What sensations do you feel? Are there any sensations of the surface you're sitting on or the earth that you're standing on? Is there a breeze? Are there any emotional feelings that come up when you're in your peaceful place? Write those down as well. Are there any smells? If your peaceful place is outside, do you smell the salty ocean, or do you smell the trees? Are you inside? Do you smell like a nice scented candle? What smells come up for you in your peaceful place? And are there any tastes? Maybe, maybe not. But what are the senses that you can cultivate in this peaceful place? So I'll read a little bit or just kind of share my peaceful place. I spent a summer in Alaska working a seasonal job, and it was one of the coolest moments of my life because on all of my days off, I got to go on these magnificent hikes and nature excursions. And one day I went on this really rigorous uphill hike that was just super difficult, super strenuous, and I did not think I was going to make it to the top. But then when I finally got there, I came to this big open lake that was just surrounded by mountains on every side and this huge, beautiful view of the forest from where I came. And I just remember sitting on this rock and hearing birds, and the sun was shining. I could feel the sun on my face. And it was just this feeling of accomplishment. Like I just did this hike that I did not think I was going to make it. And I got to this beautiful, beautiful view, and what an amazing moment. So that's my peaceful place that I can kind of have in my mind. So I encourage you for yours, really think of like just even a word, like the word could be mountain or river or my room. And you can have that word cultivate that peaceful place for you. And you can kind of go to that place if you just need an escape for a moment. We don't want to use this all the time. This can get excessive, right? You don't want to be to the point where you're completely disengaging with reality, right? This is really meant for a short-term distress tolerance tool. So go to your peaceful place, and when you notice you've calmed down a bit, go back to reality, right? But that peaceful place is always there for you when you need it. And please let me know if you have any questions about that one. Our next skill is M for meaning. And when we're talking about meaning during a crisis, during a difficult moment in your life, what we're really asking is, are there any positives or any strengths or attributes or qualities that you've gained from difficult moments in your life, right? As much as unexpected pain and trauma and crisis can just derail us and have a negative impact, it can also at the same time be illuminating for us, build character, build strength and resilience, right? So I think it's important that we're able to hold both of those truths simultaneously, that we can experience pain and grow from it at the same time. So moving into this reflection, I want to encourage you to think of a time in your life that is safe for you to bring up, meaning please don't put yourself in a place where you're going to be triggered or bring up something super upsetting you're not ready to think about. Really be kind to yourself and mindful. But if there's a safe kind of memory that was hard for you, that was an unexpected, difficult time, I invite you now to kind of bring up that moment in your life. What's something difficult that you've survived that you wouldn't mind just thinking about for a moment? So reflecting on this time in your life that was difficult or painful in some way, I want to see if you can write down any things that you've gained from that experience. And this doesn't negate the difficulty of what you've been through. This isn't saying like you wish it happened or that it was good that it happened, but really being able to hold both, right? Holding the disappointment of that experience and seeing if you can identify some good things that have come from it. I know in my life, I've experienced a lot of my own anxiety, right? As I think we all have. Definitely some of us are experiencing it to an extent now. It's being really dredged up with all the things going on. But what I love about my story is that part of what I've been through has helped me as a therapist. It's helped me connect and empathize with the people that I work with, right? So the meaning that I've been able to take from some of my struggles is it's helped me in my work and helped me make a positive impact on the lives of others. Maybe that's true for you too, right? Maybe if you are a person who, say, has experienced depression and you have a friend in your life who is struggling with depression, you're probably a really good person for them to talk to because you're not going to tell them to suck it up or just, try to think positive thoughts because you know in your own experience what that experience is like. And you know that you can't just fix it for them. So you'll really be willing to listen and being able to sit with them in that experience. So that's just one example of how difficult things in our life can have a positive kind of silver lining to them. Oh, I don't know how to go back. There we go. All right, so P stands for prayer, and I really want to be intentional with how we talk about prayer in this group because, here at CAPS, we're not pushing or promoting any sort of specific religious belief system or practice, and prayer definitely has a religious connotation for many people, but I want to encourage all of us to try to expand our definition and thoughts around the word prayer. Is there a way we can think about prayer in a broader context that's inclusive of everyone, whether you're a person of faith or you're a person who is atheist or have a different belief system that doesn't include prayer, right? Prayer to me is really any sort of spiritual practice in which you are cultivating an awareness of being connected to something bigger than yourself, right? Whether you're religious or not, whether you or not you believe in a higher power, you can still feel connected to a larger ecosystem. What greater proof do we have of that than a global pandemic that's showing exactly how deeply and inextricably we're connected to each other, right? So prayer can really be acknowledging the fact that you're not alone, even when it feels that way, and drawing upon that inner knowing of connectedness. Prayer for some people might be taking a walk in nature. Prayer for some people might be going to church, right? I think it's different for everyone, but at the core of it, it's really that acknowledgement of connectedness to something other than yourself. So I really want to encourage us to kind of broaden our awareness and thoughts about that word. And if it's still a word that doesn't resonate with you, that's totally okay. You're free to take any of this information and say, I think that might work for me, but that one won't. So if prayer is not for you, totally, I bow to you and all of your thoughts and experiences on that. But still inviting you to reflect on this one, writing down maybe what prayer means to you. Are there any thoughts or feelings, positive or negative, that come up with this word for you? I invite you to kind of just write those down for a moment. And maybe some memories or thoughts about the word prayer. And then also, once you're finished with that part of it, writing down a positive wish for yourself, for someone else, and for the world. So those three. Positive wish for yourself, for someone else, and for the world. It does not have to be a religious prayer. It can be just a wish of kindness for those three categories. So take a moment and reflect on that. I know that's a big question, so feel free to come and circle back to it if you need more time. But I am going to go forward to our next skill. All right, so next we have R for relaxation. And to some people, this may seem like really obvious. Like, of course, relaxation can improve the moment, and that's a pretty broad term. But I think this is probably one of the hardest skills to really put into practice in a crisis situation, right? So a crisis being like a really difficult, unexpected, intensely powerful, painful experience. Our first instinct, is it to practice relaxation? I don't know about for you, it's definitely not where my mind normally goes. My mind normally will go to freak out mode. Let me read the news cycle of COVID-19 for the next 8 hours and just continually circle information and information, right? Of course, we're not being black and white. It's probably good to be aware of what's going on to some extent and check in with a couple of trusted news sources even daily if that fits in with your highest and best. 100% honoring that. At the same time, asking ourselves, right, are there moments I could take a break or bring a sense of relaxation to this constant state of anxiety that I feel myself in? And being able to say to yourself, I'm going to do a relaxation activity when I really don't feel like it and when my body is going into crisis mode, that's a really radical act of self-care to take that moment for yourself. And personally, I'm thinking for many of us, it's going to require some intention and some time. If you're really in a state of high anxiety, high stress, relaxation might take some time to really sink in and have an effect. So it might not be a 5-minute bath, it might be a 30 or 40-minute bath that you need to take. But I think that can be really worth it and can be a really radical act of self-care in a crisis. So I'm hoping that all of us are able to identify some things we like to do to relax. So for this reflection, I'm going to encourage you to make a list right now of just 5 activities or things you find relaxing. No rules to this, guys, because we're all different. Some people might find baking relaxing. Some people might think that's a really stressful activity, right? Is it watching a movie? Is it petting your cat? Is it going for a walk? What are 5 things that you find relaxing? And I would love it if anyone wants to share, type it in the Q&A and I will read those ideas aloud without saying any names. But what are some things you find relaxing? Make your own little list here. Being intentional, right? Being intentional about picking things that truly bring about that sense of calm and that sense of just, right? I really like doing art, but I wouldn't necessarily put that on my relaxation activities, nor would I put like board games, because I like playing board games, but I'm also a very competitive person. So it doesn't, as my coworkers know, so it doesn't really relax me. It kind of actually hypes me up to do those things. And art, I can tend to be a little bit self-critical with. So my relaxation activities are more like taking a walk, taking a bath, petting my cat, putting on some soothing music, doing like a chakra meditation, stuff like that. We have a comment here. One person wrote walking to the lake that's near me. I totally agree. Nature is super relaxing and super cool that you live near a lake. I am jealous. That's awesome. That's a great example. So once you've made your list, I'm going to encourage you. This is a bonus, that little bonus challenge. Pick one thing from your list and set an intention to do it tonight. Right? Like that's probably the best homework you'll ever get. Like do something really fun and relaxing for yourself. So I'm going to encourage you to maybe set an intention for yourself if that feels good for you. All right, and our next skill is one thing moment or one thing in the moment. And right now, I would love to have a little chat with all of you while you're here about multitasking. Maybe I really wish I could like see you right now. If we were all in the room together, I would ask a show of hands who here considers themselves a multitasker. So feel free to like put in the comments me if that's you. Definitely used to be me as well. I think we have this idea in our society and our culture, the way that we're raised, at least here in the US, that multitasking is something to aspire to. So maybe we have even kind of, oh, do we have some raised hands? Oh, good. Okay, it's not just me. Yeah, it's like, you might even say in a job interview, like, I'm an excellent multitasker, as though it's like this thing to be proud of. But what we know in psychology and in studying behavior in the brain is that multitasking is not very effective, right? It's just not how our brains are really wired. I can't speak to everyone, but most of us, what we end up doing when we're multitasking is just rapidly switching attention from one thing to the next. So I am guilty of this when I'm cleaning. Like I'll be like going to pick up stuff in the living room to take into the kitchen, and then I'll see a dirty sock on the floor, and then I'll go over there, and then I'll see this other thing, and I have to vacuum this, and I'll just be doing a million tasks, it feels like, at once, and it just takes even longer to get anything done. So sometimes when we're doing that, when we're rapidly switching our attention, we're not really performing those tasks to the quality we would if we just took the time to do one task at a time. Also, in terms of stress, it's going to add to stress when we are trying to do everything at once. It's just too overstimulating for our minds. So I'm going to encourage you to practice this in your own life when it comes to things that you have to do, whether it's work, homework, chores around the house. What are some things that you can prioritize? What are the most important for you to get done? You can even make a list of priorities and rank them and make kind of a game plan, and then just do one thing on your list, devote your full attention to it, and then move to the next item on your list. In a crisis situation, sometimes we unexpectedly have to act and do a million different things, right? Like if God forbid, like one of your loved ones was in the hospital right now, you might have a constant to-do list of things for your loved one, right? So even in that moment, making a list and taking a moment to just, maybe number one on your list is just breathe for 3 minutes and get yourself to a place where you're more calm and able to handle the rest of the things on your list. Don't feel bad about even doing that for yourself, taking a moment to relax, putting that on your list, because that can help us just be in a better frame of mind to deal with the rest of the crisis. But do one thing at a time. It's a new way of doing things, but it's more mindful and it's usually more effective. So your reflection here, what's an example of a time you tried to multitask? Feel free to write down what that experience was like for you. How did you feel during that experience, and what was the outcome? Do you feel like you performed those tasks to the best of your ability? Do you feel like things didn't get done that maybe you wanted to or you intended to? And then think of one thing you can devote at least 5 minutes to in the next week. Maybe taking a walk without your phone, just doing the dishes, 5 minutes of breathing, like the breathing exercise, you could set a timer for 5 minutes and just do that. What's one thing that you could just devote 5 minutes to? And I would like to encourage you and invite you to set an intention to do that thing in the next week. Maybe even daily, this would be a good practice for you. If you're someone who really likes to multitask, start to train your mind to think of it in a different way and just see if it changes how you feel. We're moving on to V, and V is for vacation. And I know some of you might be thinking like, I can't really take a vacation now, I'm stuck in my house. And I want to challenge or push you to think of the word vacation also in a bit of a broader context. What does vacation really mean to you? Does vacation have to be flying off to Hawaii for a tropical vacation, right? Maybe vacation to you means giving yourself that full lunch break to turn off electronics and make yourself a nice, delicious lunch, sit on the couch with your dog, and then go outside for a moment. Maybe that's vacation to you. What is a way that you can even give yourself a vacation at home, right? What's even just spending an evening and making it your vacation night? When I think of vacation, I think of something joyful, something happy, something fun, something, really relaxing. What's a way that you can do that even at home? Some of us are at home with family or with a partner, and we can engage our support system in this. Some of us, like myself, I live alone. So I've been doing a lot of like Marco Polo and Zoom hangouts. So that might be a good way to practice vacation, involve your support system. Again, for reflection, I'm going to ask you to write down a favorite vacation you took or a favorite memory from a vacation you took, and really think about how that felt for you. Why was that fun? What did you like about that vacation? Feel free to add it into the comments if you'd like to share. And now apply that to creating a vacation night at home. I wrote down a few of my own examples. These may or may not resonate with you. One, dress up fancy and make yourself or you and your partner a romantic dinner, or you can just do like a really nice, delicious dinner at home with your family or by yourself, right? Take yourself on a date night, why not? I've definitely been guilty of just wanting to stay in sweats like every day. I don't know if anybody else is there with me, but it's just easier and it's comfy. But a couple of days ago, I like did a whole face of makeup and I got really dressed up just for fun, and I really enjoyed it. So maybe even just dressing up fancy for a night could be a fun activity for you. Maybe create a beach party at home, put on your favorite like summer music and put on your swimsuit and get in the bath. That's just one silly idea. You can kind of be silly, make it fun. Build a fort and have a movie night with friends. Use the Netflix party or use like Google Hangouts or something like that. Really think of like evoking your childhood self, your inner child with this. Like, what was really fun for you as a kid that you just don't do for yourself anymore? Maybe taking a moment and drawing on those experiences could be helpful. And we're at our last, in the acronym, we have encouragement. So I want to ask you to think to yourself, how much time do you spend criticizing yourself for the things you aren't doing well versus the time you spend patting yourself on the back for the things you are doing well? I've done this group live with a ton of different groups. I've probably done this group maybe 100 times. And I want to say almost every time everybody raises their hands for I spend more time criticizing myself. So if that's you, you are not alone. That's a lot of us. It's just a little bit more intuitive that we spend more time being critical to ourselves than being kind to ourselves. That's just tends to be how our brains work sometimes. We have that negative inner critic, right? So what if we flip the script? What if we could cultivate a sort of inner cheerleader within ourselves that can really be helpful during crisis, right? The last thing you need when everything feels like it's falling apart is that sense of beating yourself up, right? And we don't have control over the crisis. We don't always have control over the bad things that happen, but we do have control over how we talk to ourselves and how we treat ourselves. So now I just want to encourage you to write down 3 things you're doing well. And you can make that anything. They can be big or small. Maybe your encouragement for yourself today is I got up and I took a shower. Maybe it's I didn't even take a shower, but I got out of bed and I started my day, right, rather than laying in bed all morning. All of us got up before noon, so that can be our encouragement for today. I'll give you one that you can all use. You came to this workshop, right? You're here and you're focusing some time on taking care of yourself. How big of a deal is that, right? That's a big deal. A lot of people don't take the time for themselves to think, how can I care for myself better? Or how can I cope with crisis a little bit more effectively? So I just want to give you that freebie to put on your list, but I'm sure you can think of other things, whether big or small, that you're doing well right now. So just take a moment and give yourself that credit. And I would love to hear if anyone has a self-encouraging statement they want to share. And I would be happy to read that to the group and keep your name anonymous. So if anyone would like to write that down in the Q&A, please feel free to do so. I'll practice what I preach. My 3 things are that I did yoga this morning, which I didn't really feel like doing, but I did it because I knew it would make me feel better, and it did. My next one is that I took the time to get dressed in an outfit that makes me feel good. And my last one is that I made myself a really nice dinner last night that I'm really looking forward to having leftovers today. So I'm glad that I took the effort to do that for myself. So those are mine. All right, let's see if I can move my picture here. Your Improve the Moment Challenge. If I didn't give you enough to think about and write down, I'm going to give you one more challenge before we end today. So I'm going to ask you to practice Improve the Moment for yourself in the next week. So within the next week, I am going to invite you to pick one of these options to practice yourself. Option 1, just write yourself a whole letter or drawing or whatever you want to do of self-encouragement, and take that time to really practice that skill a little bit deeper and see the benefits of that positive self-talk. Option 2 is really putting to practice that brief vacation. Do that vacation night for yourself, make it your own. It does not have to be one of my ideas I suggested. Option 3 is to do a guided imagery meditation. If you struggle to just think of a peaceful place on your own today, guided imagery meditations are free a lot of the time on YouTube. I recommend Honest Guys. They are a wonderful channel that does a lot of guided imagery stuff. So go on YouTube, check those out. Option 4 is your own idea. Maybe you want to practice one thing in the moment for the next week. Maybe you want to practice relaxation like on a regular basis. Maybe prayer is something that you're going to intend to put into your daily routine, or meaning, like writing yourself a note of the meaning that you gained from or are gaining from even this difficult situation. So those are the challenges for you in the next week. You already took a huge step by just coming today, hearing this information. So I encourage you to take the next step and put it into practice in your own life. And I hope it's helpful for you. All right, thank you guys so much for attending this little workshop today. I wanted to open it up for any questions that people have, any things that you want clarification on, or things that you're curious about, any comments or reactions. I welcome all of that. So I'll just take a moment to open up the floor if any of those are on your minds. All right, so I'm not seeing any specific questions come through, but, oh, or do I? Okay, yes, thank you for the reminder about getting support. So please, if you are needing extra support right now or want extra resources or information, know that we at CAPS are here for you. So you can email us at UM-Dearborn CAPS, CAPS, at umich.edu for any information that you'd like or any kind of support or services you need if you'd like counseling or um, are concerned about anything. We're here for you. Um, you're also welcome to email, you know, um, I wouldn't mind if you emailed me and asked me a question about it. My email is jransdell, so without the last L, JRANSDEL at umich.edu. You can send me an email as well. I'd be happy to give you some info. Thank you all for coming, and I hope to see you next week for our next workshop, or for my next workshop. There's going to be another really great one happening tomorrow at 11, so tune in for that as well. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day.